This is John for Global Traveler Magazine. Today I'm on the beat with Kitsie Duncan, a master of a lot of things, but right now we're going to talk about your book upcoming. I'd rather talk to dead people.
I would. It's not a joke, that title. I'm not a people person. People are generally disappointing. Ghosts, not so much.
Well, well, I'm glad at least you're willing to talk to me today. So that's
Yes, of course. I have a circle that I enjoy speaking to.
well,
And
I'm very happy to be in that circle. I've seen you for a lot of years, a lot of times at Flashback Weekend. You're always a lot of fun there. So it's good to actually get you're always busy there too. So it's good to have a few extra
so
minutes to
busy.
talk. Yeah, you are
Yes.
busy. So tell us, how did you get to this point? Give us a little Kitsie Duncan biography.
So I grew up terrified of this stuff. I wanted nothing to do with it. The movie Poltergeist I saw in the drive-in first release scared the shit out of me, and still kind of does because just recently rewatched it for Halloween, and that shit holds up. But so I was scared of it. I grew up in, how every neighborhood has that haunted house that the kids point at and tell whispers about. I grew up in that house, unbeknownst to me, until I was in high school. Good friend of mine was the local paper boy. And one night we were just outside chatting about all the stuff and all the things. And he's like, "Now, your house is haunted, right?" And I'm like, "No." Well, we kind of did because there was a running joke in my house. Things would disappear, very important things like keys and glasses and things like that. And mom would always say, "You know what? Just let it go. Don't keep looking for it because the ghost is just going to bring it back." It was a running joke. It really was. And it always happened. So the joke was reality in all points of the matter. But he said, "Yeah, I was delivering papers before you guys moved in, and I saw a ghost in that window." And I'm looking at his hand and where it's pointing, and it's pointing to my bedroom.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. So, I was a very overdramatic child. I don't know if you would even expect that of me. Wink,
No,
wink,
there's a
nudge, nudge.
shock.
But and I'd get scared, and my mom would say, "You know what, honey, you just have an overactive imagination." And I believed her. Thank God, because Lord only knows what I would have opened my mind up to as a very impressionable child. I still haven't grown up, but and then in the late 90s, my dad passed away suddenly to a massive heart attack while he was asleep watching Indiana Hoosiers play basketball. Go Hoosiers.
Go.
So he died. Um, but a few years afterwards, I started feeling watched, things like that in my home. It was a newer home at that time. And I kind of felt like it was him. And I wanted it to be him. I kind of told myself he's just checking in, making sure everything's okay. Well, then I decided it was my turn to check in, and I'm like, how do I do this? I want to know that he's happy, that he's war, all the stuff we always worry about with our departed loved
Sure.
one. And I'm like, but the paranormal terrifies me. I've all these friends go, "No, you should just watch Ghost Hunters. Everything's fine." I'm like, I can't. It's an anxiety attack waiting to happen for me.
Wow.
But I finally did. I found a cable show. I saw some commercials for it. And I mean, the commercials just showed these guys yelling at the ghosts, but they weren't dying. They weren't getting hurt. They weren't, being dragged off into the afterlife. So those were my biggest fears, death by spirit. And it's not a thing. So I watched that show. And then every single show I could get my hands on, I binged and binged and binged. And it just pretty much showed me that they're willing to communicate. There's different ways to communicate with them. And I decided I wanted to give it a shot. So I had a couple that had a ghost hunting team. So I went along and I felt at home in this notorious haunted location. So I wanted to find out why I felt at home. And then the journey just progressed from there.
Wow, that's quite a journey. Now
Yeah.
that led you to host a or hosted a show called the Honorary Files.
Yes, yes. There we are on Amazon Prime. We've got 3 seasons, and it's myself, my son Carter, and friend of the family Clayton Abbott, and we investigated some of the most notoriously haunted locations in the world.
Now, how did you go from having an interest in it to, I'm going to be hosting a TV show about it or a podcast about it either?
Yeah. So, my husband and I had some editing experience when it comes to video, and I wanted one of those cool cameras that could see in the dark, so I instantly got one of those. And I'm like, you know what? These are fun little adventures I'd like to share with people. So I'd put little things together and I'd throw it up on YouTube, and people watched. And we had a huge crowd at every location because I just bring my friends because it was just a good time. And we kind of narrowed it down to just Clayton and Carter and myself because we had the same outlook on the paranormal. We wanted to hear these locations' stories. That's what I am, as I'm a storyteller in more ways than one now. But yeah, so and our energy together just seemed to get evidence that other people weren't getting at these locations.
So now that brings you to your book. You got a book coming out called
Yes.
As we said, I'd rather talk to dead people. Tell us how did you decide to do that book? What should we expect from that book?
Well, I'd always had a dream of writing a book. I'm always like, oh, I'm going to write my memoirs on photo ops, and you really can't do that
Well,
because
I've been to those photo ops. You probably could, but that'd be a whole
oh,
different book.
it'd be a great story. But I love the celebrities, I love the fans, and I don't want to piss
That's
anybody off.
true.
So
True. Keep that going.
yeah, my very good and wonderful friend, Dave Schrader, you may know him from the Holzer Files. He sent me a text one day and he's like, "Do you ever think of writing a book?" I'm like, "Well, kind of. Why?" He's like, "I'm going to get you in touch with this amazing publishing firm and let's see what you can do." And I did it. So I did have extra time because it was during the pandemic, but that's that was on my side for one brief
Sure.
moment of time.
So what can we expect from the book? I mean, are you telling stories of what you experienced? Are you giving advice? Are you talking about locations?
It's a little bit of everything. So some of these locations are in such magical cities. One of my favorites is New Albany, Indiana. It's called the Culbertson Mansion. It's actually a museum now. It is the most stunning home I've ever been in my life. I didn't want to leave. I just want to be like, babe, go grab our furniture. We're just moving it. We've investigated in Australia at the Parramatta jail, which was terrifying. So it's my love for these locations, which I don't want to say an architecture nerd, but I geek out. I really do. I see an old door hinge in one of these buildings, and I'm like, oh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And we get to go to locations like Richmond, Virginia, Salt Lake City, all these amazing places. And what's even better is we get to tell the stories of these souls that are at these locations.
So what would you say, like your top two or three, either both, your top two or three like scariest locations, and your top two or three location that you went to that you just had a blast at, or maybe they're the same.
They are the same. They really are. So I touch on two specific locations from the beginning of the investigation to the end and beyond. And one of them is Culbertson Mansion that I had just mentioned in New Albany, Indiana. And another is Bobby Mackey's, which is a honky tonk in Wilder, Kentucky, that's specifically known for having demons in the basement.
Oh,
And I don't believe demons haunt honky tonks or houses, or why would they? If they're demons, they've got much bigger fish to fry than hanging out in the basement of a honky tonk. So, yeah, they were just amazing locations where I literally connected with one spirit there and had an conversation with them, like a real-time conversation with them all night long. Now, we don't have a big production company. The production company is me. So we don't get the place for a week where we can, see if we can pull out information. We get one night, just like, whatever local ghost hunting paranormal investigative team in your city does. You know, we investigate just like them. And so we have sometimes 5 hours to get as much evidence as we can. And that's exactly what happened at Bobby Mackey's. And the spirit showed herself to me. She showed me one of her memories in my head that I couldn't explain.
Whoa.
I'd never seen it before. It wasn't my memory. And then she followed me home. So yeah.
Mm. So have you ever had an experience doing this that really just scared you completely out of your mind?
In the beginning, yes, because everything was so unknown. It was my first investigation and I covered this briefly in my various locations chapter. It's Lake County Jail. It's Old Lake County Jail in Crown Point, Indiana. I actually grew up in a neighboring town, so it was really cool to go back to, where my roots are. It's a beautiful jail. It's actually the jail where John Dillinger
Oh,
escaped back in the day, and
good
Johnny
story.
Depp filmed Public Enemies there as well. So, you had me at the mobster actions like a Chicago girl, but it was terrifying. And the energy is just different in any jail you go to. I like to sprinkle a jail in here and there with all these beautiful stories because there are no good stories in a jail. But sometimes they are still willing to tell us their story.
No, I'm not going to ask you about your specific religious beliefs unless you want to, mention them.
I
But
don't have any.
I was going to say, does this have any tie-in? Does this have any conflicts with any of your beliefs in religion or spiritualism?
No, I am an open-minded person. I grew up devout Lutheran. It's as close as to Catholicism as you can get. But as an adult, I believe you do good things will happen. And I don't know if that's Buddhism or what it is, but I just try to be the right person, the good person. And helped me on this paranormal path as well because you think about it, you walk into this location, you've not been introduced to any of these spirits that are there, and you're barking orders at them, and you've got a team of 15 just swarming into this room that they're supposed to be in. So we walk in every room, in every location we're at, and we say, we're here out of love, light, peace, and positivity. We're not here to hurt you, harm you, and we really don't want to take you away. We wish you'd stay here. And we're just looking to talk to spirits that are of the same energy. And 9 times out of 10, I mean, for the 3 seasons we have on Amazon Prime, we investigated 10 locations. Only one of those locations, we didn't get any interaction at all.
Wow, wow. Well, the spirits like you. Now,
I try.
well, actually, I've seen you at convention. Everybody loves Kitsie, of course.
No, everybody hates Kitsy at the conventions.
I love Kitsie. Now, if somebody comes up to you and says, okay, first of all, let me state, I believe everything. I totally am open to all this, and I love this stuff. But if somebody comes up to you and says, I don't believe any of this stuff. That stuff is garbage. That's crap. It doesn't happen. What do you say? Do you say anything, or do you just write them off and
First of
say,
all, that tells me they're scared of it. They don't want anything to do with it. Secondly, I can't convince them by telling them a story. I mean, I know it's real. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've heard it. But you can't just say, you know what, you're an asshole because you don't believe in the paranormal. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not that
sure?
person. And I'm like, well, I appreciate your opinion, and I walk away.
Probably the smart thing to do. Have,
Yes.
I have to ask you about a specific place. See if you've heard anything about it. The Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. Have you heard
No.
anything? You have not heard about that? Okay,
No.
then you have to look up the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee. I was on the field in the Brewers with the Milwaukee Brewers, and they were playing the Minnesota Twins. And Tony Oliva, an old time coach, we were talking to him, and I said, what are some of your favorite places? And he goes, honest to God, he goes, any place but the Pfister. Now he's got I think a Dominican accent. He's an old time guy. He's a great guy, really good player. And I said, well, what about it? He goes, I'm not talking about it. I'm just not talking about it.
Oh, you
So
know
then
what that
I
is.
actually stayed at the Pfister, and nobody there will if you ask the staff and all that, they will not comment on it at all. They just go, we don't know anything about that. But if
Oh,
you
but
ask
you can
people
tell by the
around,
look in their eyes.
yes. And if
Had
you
that
ask people
happen.
around there, everybody knows that there's something going on there. So that would be my tip for you to check into that, because
Oh,
I don't have the
awesome.
abilities to, but you do.
I tell you what, I've got family up in Wisconsin. Hey dear, don't you know? I got to get back up there soon.
Yeah, and actually, it's a beautiful hotel too. There's a lot of beautiful stuff in that hotel, and I recommend it for anybody. But tell me then, what is the deal with Indiana? You're from Indiana, Michael West, the author's from Indiana. What is going on with Indiana and horror and the other world?
There's nothing else here, man. There really isn't. Nothing else to do.
Okay, I wasn't ready for that answer, but okay.
You get nothing but legit, serious honesty from this bitch.
That's why I wanted to talk to you. So, what is next for Kitsie Duncan? Will there be a book tour?
As soon as COVID is over, yes. I have asthma and am immune compromised, and my immunity is really bad right now because I haven't been to conventions.
Okay.
So, what's next? I my crew has moved on. So right now it's just me. And I'm looking to rebrand my paranormal investigative style. My claim to fame right now is I am the self-proclaimed Oprah of the paranormal, and I want to get different stories. I've gotten the stories from these locations that everybody has investigated. I want to help people now. So book tour, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But I'm guessing 2022 around then is when they're going to start having big gatherings again. That's just
Well,
my crazy talking.
no, I think you're right on. I think the end of 2021 at best is our hope. But I'll be there at the book tour. You know you're going to see me.
Oh, I
So,
bet Mia would let me do one at Flashback.
what's that?
I bet Mia would let me do one at Flashback.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There you go. Oh, that would be great because that's right here.
Yeah.
So before we wrap, tell everybody where they can find the book. Give a big last plug for the book, where they could find you, anything you want. It's your show now. I'll shut up.
Oh, thank you. So again, please check out Oddity Files on Amazon Prime. I also have a podcast called Oddity Files. It's on all the podcast apps. It's a friend of mine, and we talk about the paranormal, but not in a creepy woo-woo kind of way. We're kind of smartasses, and it shows big time. We tell stories we've heard about the paranormal or found on the internet and try to tell it to the world. You can on me at flow.page/Kitsie Duncan because I have a couple more podcasts. One's a true crime called Miss Murder. I also have one called Get Scared, where independent authors will send me their short horror stories and I get creepy and read it to you. It's something perfect to play around the campfire. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, now's the perfect time, as you mentioned. We're all kind of stuck in the house. This is the perfect time to just load up on all things Kitsie Duncan.
Oh, and the book. The book's on Amazon.
There you go.
It's
And,
called
and
I'd Rather Talk to Dead People, and my name is Kitsie Duncan.
that's Kitsie Duncan, and it's on Amazon. I've looked it up. I haven't ordered it yet, but I've got it set. About 10 minutes after I'm done with this interview, I'm going to walk over there. I'm going to open a Coke, and I'm going to order your book, and then I will see you in person and have you sign it sometime.
Yay. And it is available in Kindle format too for those of you that are trying to declutter, unlike myself.
Yeah, I was going to say I am the clutterer, so I will be getting the paper version, but that's cool. It's all cool. I recommend everybody check out Kitsie Duncan. I've been a fan for a long time. I've met you in person several times at Flashback and probably some other places that I can't remember or conventions. You're a blast. You really are. And like you said, you do tell it straight out, and that's the best part. I've listened to your podcast. I encourage everyone to check them out and buy your book. Let's make this a bestseller because in all reality, it really is a bestseller. So, Kitsie,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for your time.
I
I really
appreciate
appreciate it.
you.
You have a great day, dear.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.